to Johnny Ive, to design something really new and innovative, you have to reject reason. Until recently, design has been shrouded by a cult of secrecy. While the average business might use design as a last stop before hitting the market, the most intuitive business leaders have taken design forward, leveraging it as a strategic advantage, and on the rare occasion, integrating it with the culture of at KCT Incubator Ford. I would like to invite Sonia onto stage and ask her to introduce the panelists.
Can we also get the other panelists on stage? Once you're here, I'll ask you to introduce yourself briefly. Before we do that, before you get to meet everyone, let's talk a little bit about, the fact that you walked into this room, you obviously believe in design to some extent. Okay, and after Jan's talk, I'm sure whoever was not convinced is equally convinced. But how many of you think that, and I see there are questions about culture, there are questions about cost, there are questions about impact, there are a lot of questions around design, which is why we thought it's a good opportunity to get into some of those questions, to delve into some of the secrets, some of the things we don't know yet. How many people here think that design and engineers are at an equal footing in our country? Are. How many hand raises? One hand raise. Okay. There was Jan said something about designers and engineers need to be on an equal footing. Yeah? So, and that's in the West, which is why in terms of brand, in terms of experience, some of what they create is so superior. So, how many people think here in India, designers and engineers are on an equal footing? No, not yet. Okay. Sorry? Yeah, it's not a question. Okay. Yeah. So basically, why we thought we'll have this discussion is because, and we've been already talking and we'll introduce you to everyone, is because design is broadly understood as intentional creativity, right? Everybody understands it's problem solving. Okay, but design is also a bit like yoga. It can be something you do for the body. You can do yoga for the abs, but it's just going to work for your abs. So literally you can do design superficially, or it can become a way of thinking. You start meditating, it becomes deeper, it starts giving you more benefits, Or you can sort of fall in love with design. And especially in a company that falls in love with design, it's very different. Different results come out. Steve Jobs is a case and example. Everything was designed, everything had to be designed, there was no question, and it comes right from the top. Or then at another level, it becomes part of your culture. The whole soul of your organization is about design. So I see an analogy between design and yoga here. And however, what happens is, I personally know of a lot of CEOs who have a design culture within the organization but will not talk about it. It is their secret competitive advantage. So, and there are design gurus who will tell you partly but not tell you everything, So that's why they're here. Make sure you ask them enough questions. They'll tell you partly. Maybe sometimes we don't know how to tell enough. Where do you start from? How do you explain? So, so it's important to get deeper and ask those questions, and maybe then design and engineering can be at an equal footing. Maybe then we'll understand and adopt design correctly. So, so our questions today are going to be around that, and we'll involve you as much as we can in those questions. May I request you to introduce yourself, Ashvin?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashvin. I'm a partner with KPMG, and specifically why I'm here is I'm part of this group called Digital Consulting, and within that we've got certain design thinking philosophies that we have used both internally as our own dog food to try and learn, and also with clients. So look forward to kind of speaking and sharing my experiences in this space.
Hi, I'm Saumitri. I lead the design team, almost 90 plus design team, which is unheard of in an R&D organization at Samsung Bangalore. I started off, like Dilip mentioned, as an automobile designer. And then by chance, it so happened that I did a human-centered design, which Jan spoke of, project for Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center. And then I also worked for MIT Media Lab's initiative in India called Media Lab Asia. And then after that, I went to, consulting with Human Factors International. And then I went on to start my own team at a company called Global Logic, which was on Jan's slide as well, before coming to Samsung. So let's see what we discuss in this panel.
Hi, my name is Param. I am part of Dr. Reddy's, where I lead a innovation and design center called Studio 5B, which we set up about a little over 2 years back. I'll talk a little bit about what we do there during the course of this presentation, this discussion. And prior to this, I was a design director at IDEO, where which also I'll share some of the experience and learnings through the conversation today. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. My name is Lakshman. I'm part of a small global team within SAP. About SAP, I think Jan has already mentioned something earlier. I'm not going too much into that, but what we do or what I do in this small global team is to run innovation topics, working with our customers for their business innovation, as well as to work with our product groups or development groups to come out with net new white spaces and then therefore new solutions, as well as internal projects to enhance their employees' experiences. Prior to this, I had co-founded a group called SAP Global Delivery sometime back in 2001, and prior to that was part of the startup team in SAP India a long time back in '96. So that's in short about what I've been doing. Yeah, more we could discuss during the course of the conversation here.
It's a little bit cold in this room. Can we have a warm applause for our panelists? Because then they'll tend to share more. There's just human insight. So what we've done is just to make this faster, crisper, and to give you as much insight as possible, we have we worked till 12 a.m. last night, making a presentation and putting it all together to show you. So we'll just let it appear on stage, and then each one gets 2 minutes to tell us and explain to us. We start with the question of where does design rest in your organization? Okay, and you can challenge them if you like, because they know what they're talking about. So if you look at, is it superficial? Is it on the outside? It's important, but as a last stop before a product hits the market? Or is it about the way you think about complex problems? Or is it something you're completely in love with? Or is it part of your culture? Some of the questions you had were around this, so we'll go with whoever slide pops up first. It's a lucky draw. Oh, lucky draw. Yeah.
By the way, Sonia's team had a night out yesterday, for which we should give a big hand.
Thank you.
And I think that's what designers do, have night outs.
Yeah, we love what we do.
Okay, thanks, Sonia, on this. This is me there, and my statement here. This is what we think, or our team thinks, that we're a kind of a conscience keeper on design thinking for the groups that we work with internally as well as with our customers. A little bit about why we say this. You know that SAP is a large organization. It's got various functions, and within each function, there are several product groups and different functions, sub-functions as well. So therefore, the intensity of adoption of design thinking is in varied levels. So, but then there are some functions and some development groups pretty much deep into adopting design thinking practices and then doing projects end to end. So that's where we work very, very closely with them, and therefore that's where we belong to. It's a kind of heart and soul for us. Yep. Yep. This is okay.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So this is, if I were to talk about where mind, body, soul, and what else did you have? Heart.
body, mind, heart, soul.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I missed something, I know. So I think with Dr. Reddy's, the journey has been interesting. It's been about a little over, close to 4 years, I think, since we began that journey. The journey began even before I joined Dr. Reddy's. I was at IDEO at that time, and Dr. Reddy's, especially the CEO Prasad, reached out to IDEO and started the engagement to explore and see what can IDEO do for Dr. Reddy's. And the question at that time, he had no idea about design thinking and about sort of beyond, of course, having read a bunch of HBR articles or whatever it is that we typically read. And he reached out and he asked this question about how can we collaborate and how do we create a company that is different in culture, is more patient-centric in the way we do things, and how can we create a more innovative culture in the company. And one of the first things that we did at IDEO at that time was help the organization look at what is the fundamental purpose behind this organization, given that it's been around for 30 odd years. What is the reason for existence? Why do people come to work every day, and what keeps them alive and engaged? We started that inquiry, and we didn't plant something from outside in. We didn't come up with some idea that was sitting outside in our head and planted in their head and said, this is what the purpose should be. We went in there and spoke to literally 200 people across the company, across geographies and people, and we tried to understand what is already in the DNA of the company. And we articulated that in a purpose statement, which was phrased as good health can't wait. I don't know if it's there somewhere on the slide, but
I think
yeah. So that statement, good health can't wait, sort of epitomized the idea that we want to make medicines and healthcare sort of solutions that are ultimately patient-centric, that are people-centric. I mean, all of you have been patients at some point of time in your life, unfortunately. None of us like taking medicines, right? I mean, it's the last resort. The point is, when you have to take a medicine, can you make that experience more empathetic? Can you get to connect with the patient beyond just giving them the medicine? Because the medicine is only one aspect of what it is to get better in your health. So with those kind of questions, we started the journey. And so for us, design is really not about the superficial stuff. It's about how do you think about making customer-centric or patient-centric stuff that makes a difference to
Are
them.
you talking about Dr. Reddy's, or are you talking about the studio within Dr. Reddy's?
I'm
Is
talking
there
about
a
Dr.
difference?
Reddy's.
Is
I
there a
think
difference?
the intent of the studio is to fulfill that goal for Dr. Reddy's, right? The intent is to help. I mean, we have to get there. I'm not saying we're there yet.
Yeah.
I think today where we are is the CEO is fully bought into it. He's a big, passionate believer in design. This is the CEO himself, G.V. Prasad. And he and a lot of people in the top management truly believe in the power of design thinking towards making it, it's about patient centricity. It's about end user and making things that make a difference. And so the reason I shared this image was this was almost 2.5 years back. And, we were going to go out and do some ethnographic research as part of some of the work that we were doing for Dr. Reddy's at that time. And literally 2 days before that, before one of the ethnographies, and it was going to happen in Hyderabad, I reached out to Prasad on a whim and I said, we're doing some research. I'd love for you to go and, actually go to a patient's home and be part of that research. And he got onto it within less than 2 days' notice. I mean, how many CEOs would do that, right? I mean, and it's not just, and in fact, he doesn't even know that I'm sharing this slide. So he might be, I hope I don't lose my job. But the point is, this is not a PR exercise. It is something that he did because he wanted to connect with a consumer in a real way. And what the statistic that I've shown here, because a lot of people like numbers, is that if you look at it over 36 months, over a variety of 20 to 30 projects, we've personally interacted with over 1,000 patients in a very deep way. And this is not a quantitative survey. This is deep, firsthand, going to people's homes and talking to them, understanding what's going on in their lives. That's really a big shift for the industry, which has always looked at the doctors as the customer. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. Go to the next slide. Yeah.
Oh, that's mine. Okay.
Yeah.
So, if I tell you that at Samsung, design is an imperative, not an option, it's kind of the obvious thing. So let me tell you something else. Let me tell you a story. Because we are talking about engineering and design, to tell you what is it that we do today, I'm going to take you back to my design school days in 1999. Okay. So I'm a mechanical engineer who entered design school after working for 2 years. And I'll tell you how that transformation happened and what is it that we are trying to do today in Samsung. So in the first month or probably the second month, we got this exercise to design a grater. Grater matlab kaddukas, right? Where you grate onions and gajar and mooli and everything, right? And we were divided into groups. We were 19 in our class, divided into 5 or 4 groups. And so in my group, we were 3 mechanical engineers and 1 civil engineer. So what did we do? We put all the pulleys and shafts and cantilevers, and so all you need to do is यहाँ से गाजर जाएगा और यहाँ से ग्रेट होके निकल जाएगा, यहाँ से मूली जाएगा और निकल जाएगा. And we were very proud of it. The geek in me actually, I don't know if there are mechanical engineers here, but the geek in me actually calculated mechanical efficiency of the system as well. And we were very proud of it. We worked for almost a week. And so on Friday, when we presented it to our prof is an ex-Canadian, and he listened to all 5 groups for almost 3.5 years, 3.5 hours, and did not say a single word. At the end, he just told us this: साले engineers, अगर 3 महीने में design के idea नहीं मिलता है, तो program छोड़ देना. And we were so frustrated, we went back during the weekend. We told कि साले designers को कुछ नहीं आता है. They can't make anything और बड़ी-बड़ी बातें करते हैं. And so on Monday we come and we were expecting, now what is this new thing that this guy is going to do? So he gets this big block of Amul butter and a Fisker's knife. He gets all the 19 of us to walk up to his desk and cut 1 slice of Amul butter with the Fisker's knife. And we are all wondering what's going on. Then we go back to our seat and we are expecting him that he'll now tell us what is it that we have done, kind of. But he doesn't tell us. He tells us, अच्छा तुम लोगों ने जो ये grater बनाया है, किसके लिए बनाया है? So everyone says, for the housewife. So he says, okay, now tell me more about the housewife. And we are stuck. कि हाँ housewife के लिए तो बना लिया है, अब housewife के बारे में क्या बताना है, right? So he tells us this, that imagine there is Sudha. She lives in Sion. Mumbai का एक चौल है. गर्मी है, पसीना है, मुंबई में बारिश गिरता रहता है. It's a 1 room. There is a shared toilet. And there is, in that room, there is a partition, पर्दा लगाया हुआ है. And on this side she cooks. She cooks, and in the evening she wants to make this gajar ka halwa because her children are going to come from school. Her husband is going to come back from the garment factory that he works. And she is this proud mother, this proud wife, this proud homemaker, this proud woman who owns this house. What does she want to do? On the other hand, imagine Sudha. She has this beautiful grater where when she grates gajar, it's as if the Fisker's knife cuts butter. It's that beautiful. It's so beautiful that she can put up, she can put on music, hum the tune, and even dance to it. Can you design that for Sudha? Sudha in Mumbai, Ankita in Delhi, Tupati in Bengal, Karuna in Chennai. Can you design for them? So this was a big, for us, all this bunch of engineers who went to IIT Delhi's design school, it was a shock, For the next 1 week, we didn't know what to do. So when we came back on Monday to start redoing the design exercise, no one was talking of, what engineers typically do. Automate kar do sab kuch. We were talking of how to create music. We were talking about how to create beautiful gajar ka shapes for those children. We were talking about how to make Sudha dance. And that is exactly what we are trying to do in Samsung today. Now, where is the conflict? The conflict is, as an engineer, when I was doing that exercise, what did I do? I thought, what can You know, the intentions were all right. We were trying to make for the homemaker. But the perspective was this: what can I make so as to deliver it to the homemaker? But in design, we had to change that perspective. We had to go there and say, what is Sudha's story? What are her needs? And not just needs, what are her desires? And then how can we enable technology so that Sudha can grade as beautifully as a fisker's knife cuts butter? So that's exactly what we are trying to do in Samsung. So that's why you have this.
So
You have to realize.
is it thinking or is it something beyond that? It's a way of feeling, it's a way of being, it's a high level of sensitization.
So design is about life, right? It is like Philip Stark says in a beautiful TED video. It's about our story, and to us, our story might seem this much, but when we look at a long span in time, we will realize that it's a long story of humanity.
Yeah.
And this story is about love, right? It could be enabled by technology, and surely, but this story is about love.
Thank you. Ashvin.
I think, from our perspective, I think we do, obviously I'll talk more from the two angles. One within KPMG, more within an India and global context. There is he didn't show that from Jan earlier. KPMG globally has also acquired a lot of design firms, but I think there are 2-3 underlying themes to it. In addition to, so there are, I'll bring 2 additional points in terms of what, as compared to some of what the panelists have shared. One is for us, it is the convergence of an MVP type concept, the minimal viable product concept. There is a absolute realization that there has to be a commercial angle to it. And there has to be somehow, as he just said, in our sense, the conflict is in managing that. When we are talking for our clients, we use design thinking to accelerate the process, the empathetic discovery process to quickly get outcomes. So it is tied to speed, it is tied to better acceleration of outcomes, which result probably at some point with 1 or 2 degrees of separation into some good financial reality for the client. Okay, so that is the essence of, and when we started this, and when I started this in India, this was the essence. Okay, so what we did, just going a little bit on what I did for when we started this from ground up in the Indian context, we hired a bunch of designers, and we had these moments of epiphany, as Saumitri mentioned, in terms of, my background is primarily hardcore consulting. I have never, before doing this exercise a few years ago and taking this on, I've never designed anything from scratch. Okay, for us it was always, where's the business case, where's the result, where's the outcome, and how do we get at it faster. So there was, with a certain sense of skepticism, we took this on. However, what worked for us, what worked, and we'll go through it as we go along, is there was, and there is something KPMG does globally called You Collaborate. Okay, this is a method which uses a lot of themes from design thinking, from lean startups and so on and so forth, to get faster outcomes in a fishbowl sort of environment, so that the clients are all there is focus on the outcome, there is discovery, there is lots of collection of data, there is quick results, so on and so forth. So what we have done effectively, I believe, is blended the huge power of what rapid prototyping, agile acceleration. The only part we have had less success is failure first, okay, and I can talk about it at some point, because in India clients are not very open to failure fast and failure first. It's an alien concept still here. It may be my view. I don't know what the rest of you listening might think, but apart from that, there is tremendous convergence of business outcomes. It's been a learning process, but that's what we do. So there is this method. We have now applied it successfully over large groups of people, over these kinds of small problem sets, over larger ecosystem problem sets, and the results are good. It's not always perfect or even close to perfect, but it's been a learning experience doing this, okay, in terms of, and because for us the commercial business outcome hat always is there, given the long history of it, of firms like ours, consulting firms like ours, who have got audit, tax, advisory, those kinds of roles. You've got to always get the commercial angle right, so that you get the best outcome. So, and I can talk.
Curious.
Can I interrupt here? I just want to, there's an interesting sort of, this is the fundamental conflict that I think most people struggle with, and I'm taking your input as a springboard, not to kind of point fingers at what you said. But I think most people who are non-designers think of it as a conflict, which is that there is something like I have to do the right thing for the end user, or I have to create the right design outcome. And on the other side, I've got a business outcome that I'm looking for. To me, these are two not conflicting issues. These are not, they're not at a tussle with each other. It is about the fundamental thing that design thinking is a way to get to that business outcome. If people can get that, and I'll give you a very tangible example. And somebody asked this question earlier about, let's talk about a good design solution that's being created in India, right? And I'll take two examples. One is a very homegrown Indian sort of cultural example, and the other is a more contemporary startup-y kind of thing, which I think many of you are from. Let's take the startup thing, ClearTrip. It's the best travel app that I love using, and I have been, and the website, I've been using them. I mean, I fly like literally more than I would like to every month and every week. And it is my only respite from simplifying and solving that problem for me as a traveler, as a frequent traveler. And I just love that app. I mean, it's so simple, it gets the job done. I book the app, book the ticket, and I'm out of it. That's it. And it's such a simple experience. It is simple, good design. It's nothing fancy, it's nothing, glamorous. That's a great example of good design in India, right? In the cultural sort of older sort of cultural traditional context, take the, I'm Tamilian, and on festival occasions, you eat on a banana leaf, plantain leaf, and you have this whole 10 course meal, whatever it might be, and and at the end of it, you just collect all of that, and if there's some leftover food, you junk that, or you give to the cow who's standing outside the house. I mean, it's completely sustainable.
But Param, it's not so much the outcome. It's
Yeah.
more the journey that people are wondering about. Just day before, we talked to a lot of startups
Yeah.
who really don't know whether they should embrace design or not, because they think there's something interesting there, but it looks like something hard. It looks like alien science. It doesn't look like what you are instinctively doing as an entrepreneur, now put into a method, and delivered more easily
Absolutely. I
and
think-
more
and
systematically.
that's
So
a
that's where
problem.
the conflict.
I agree. I think that's the problem of the design community, which is not able to speak in a way that the others can understand.
Right.
Like the way Saumitri was beautifully explaining his story,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
but notice I can guarantee most of the people who are not from a design sort of ethos. I'm not saying you have to have a design education, but most people would have been uncomfortable with when he was talking about design is love. I mean, when you say something like that, it sounds poetic, but what does it mean? I mean, you would want to know what do I do with that? I mean, how do I
Yeah,
what
so
what
it's
is the
how
process?
do I get there? What's
So
the process?
yeah, I think as designers, it's our job to make the process more clear, more tangible, and more visible in terms of what is it that I'm getting into, and how does it translate into a
Yeah.
tangible outcome that makes a difference to all
But
the
I
stakeholders.
think this is the question you need to answer, because this is what Ashvin said. That yeah, it's interesting, but does it know how to get to the money?
Yes.
Ultimately, we need to be able to answer that. And interestingly, the early adopters, the CEOs, they know that it is a way to get to the money, actually with less money to get to more money. But they're not like entirely wanting to share that, because that's the advantage, right? That is why consulting companies are buying design firms today. Because it's not about the thinking, it's also about the action.
So I'd just like to complement to what Ashwin has said. This is one experience from our organization here. This is quite some time back, about 5-6 years back, when just about design thinking as an initiative was getting introduced. And
Right.
There is this particular group called the Globalization Group, which does the localization for different countries. Yeah. So we had a product called Business by Design, and it's meant for the small and medium industries. So this has been there globally popular, but then in India it was not been very popular, simply for the reason you didn't have the localization components. So for this team, what they wanted to do is to go and build the localization component, which is the excess duty. So they came to us and said, can we do excess duty applying the design thinking approach? But then the idea is to sell more of business by design to our customers. So we said, okay, let's not keep that as a goal, that we want to sell more licenses. Instead, try and go and see who are these users and then try to come out with some good experiences for those guys
Right.
who are handling exercise in their organizations. So that's where we started with.
Yeah.
We never had an outcome defined in the beginning. So let's go and look at, because they went and met all the small and medium industries, companies. And here is the person, a finance guy doing multiple jobs. And there are people who does just the exercise job, variety of people. But then one of the core functions is exercise. They spent around, we have a normal cycle of 90 days in which 25 days of time is spent on design thinking related
Yeah.
activities, all the phases and so on and so forth. At the end of it, you need to come out with a working prototype. So you'll be surprised that they came out with a very simple, very simplistic, easy to use, and easy to consume for the exercise person to start using them right from the beginning. We had a working
Right.
prototype. They were asking, can we start using them, right? To your surprise, what happened is we had our other globalization group, which does for the regular ERP,
Yeah.
the big ones. They were also surprised, saying that why didn't we have this experience in our own ERP,
Yeah.
right? And to their surprise, they thought about some selling to 50 customers in a year's time. In 6 months' time, they're able to sell to 100 customers. So the outcome happens naturally
Yeah.
when you look from the experience point of view.
Okay. So outcome happens naturally. So these are people who know how to make outcome happen naturally. So yeah. Yes, yes, you can. So I'm just going to say that. So what we're going to do is the next question we are asking them, and when you move a slide, we'll know time is up. Okay. The next question we are asking them is share your design secrets. What are those things that you would possibly tell a new intern, somebody joining your team, and that could be useful to our audience? And if you don't fully understand what they're saying, if you think that, no, this is something I already know, they're not yet sharing, they're not being open enough, Raji, I think, is going to pass around post-its. Just put your questions down and we'll pop them up, so that we can pop them up anytime during. And if you think of some, so we'll finish everybody and then we'll pop up the questions. Yeah. We'll move a little bit faster, time us, move it. Okay, 1 minute per question because we talk too much in between. Okay. Ashvin.
So I think for me, I think it's right up there. To me, simplicity has unimaginable premium. To me, that is the main takeaway that we have learned, having done it in a consulting with numerous clients in the Indian and the Southeast Asian region, in terms of saying, and simplicity is very simple. I mean, you don't, and I'll put it in any business problem, as somebody said, any need, you need not solve all parts of it in the first iteration. It is very difficult for us, both as the clients who are wanting the answer, and as technically as consultants, to limit our ability to solve everything. So where we have found success is by trying to imagine, find out the needs, empathize with that, and then discover a small prototype that solves parts of the problem rather than the whole thing at one go. And there is a lot of pressure to not do that, because obviously the larger the problem, the larger the scope, the larger the fees, the larger blah blah blah. So what I found, and this we have done very, very effectively, is if you keep this simple, let's say in waves or in phases in early prototyping, it has unimaginable very good connection to outcomes, which will happen, as Lakshman was saying, in terms of what is. So that would be one advice or one takeaway I would say out of having done this in the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, Saumitri. No, we'll finish everybody. We'll finish 4 minutes and then, yeah. Saumitri, yeah.
So, I mean, in my previous story, there is something else that I learned, which is that if you noticed in my previous story, there was an assumption that Sudha, what she needs is automation. Most products that we make today, what I have noticed is that we start from one single assumption, and then we spend a lot of time on this solution. Einstein is supposed to have said that if he had 1 hour in his life, he would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes solving it. But we do exactly the opposite, just the ulta. No, why do we do it? You know, when I look back upon my education, since school, in engineering entrance exams, in engineering, what have I done? There was a problem given to me. I took out the known variables and then solved for the unknown variables. I analyzed it, broke it up into small parts, put it into small boxes, and then solved them and integrated them. If you see, that's what we do in engineering. Differentiation and integration, applied mathematics, right? And so this thinking, this orientation since childhood has become so permanent in our minds that we are not able to go beyond that. And therefore, and the other part is that, you know, it's solutions that seem to get you money. So after all, money counts. So you feel that, okay, since money counts, the solutions are going to get me money. Let's jump to the solution. Can you just go back to my previous
Your
slide?
time is up.
I know. Let me just quickly. But so that's why we need to go back. The reason I'm saying this is, okay, you are going to solve the problem, but who is going to frame the problem? Framing of the problem is what designers are taught in design school. It's unfortunate that we forget it, but that's what we need to go back to. In the interest of time, I'm not going beyond, but that is something I want to bring back. Most people think that I've made a solution, now communicate it to the user, that's the role of design. But actually, that's only half of what designers are supposed to do. It's framing the problem before
Framing the problem.
that designers are supposed to be actually involved in. And I think organizations are not doing enough to engage the designer in that, and designers are not doing enough to tell organizations that that's what we are supposed to do for you.
Thank you.
All right. So I had made this with the intent that a lot of the audience would be designers, and I'm assuming that here it is not the case. So maybe this might be a little, you know, it might go over the head of some people. But anyway, let me try. So for me, I think the big learning has been that good design is just one of the ingredients. It cannot succeed by itself. Designers tend to live in this vacuum called, you know, the rest of the world has to learn about what we do and what design does, and we are awesome. Come to us. You know, that's been the world that we've lived in traditionally. It's changing. I mean, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but I think the if you look at the mix that we need, you need human-centered design, you need the right technology, you need smart business models, you need truly collaborative, aligned teams, you need timing, the right timing. I cannot emphasize that enough. And then you have something that is successful. And the reason I've picked up Airbnb, I'll talk very quickly about two elements there. Most of you might know about this one element of how Airbnb went out and the founders took pictures of the early houses that were put up on the Airbnb platform, because they noticed that the crappy photographs that people had up there before was one of the main reasons why consumers were not coming onto the platform and finding it attractive enough to come to that. Okay, the slide has changed now, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
You sent a lot of pictures, so we were kind to
Yeah,
you in
if you can
turn
just
and
go
give
back,
you
yeah.
extra slides.
Yeah, so very quickly, I think that was a
But
that
you
was a
still get a
design.
minute. You still get a minute.
That was a design moment, which is going out there and looking at what is it that matters to an end user. But also what they did is very smartly. Their key business problem in the early stages was, how do you get enough people to put up their houses for rent? I mean, for becoming an Airbnb, right? Otherwise, there's not going to be enough demand. Enough supply. So they went out to Craigslist, and Craigslist was a place where, you know, a lot of people put up these kind of ads saying, I have a place to sublet for a few days. And they put up, you know, reached out proactively to those people who had already put up an ad on Craigslist. Now, without that kind of smart business thinking, you would have not created the supply. You would have not created the right platform, right? So I think that's the point, that you need a mix of all the different skills to work in tandem.
Sorry, we'll need to
Yes, I'm done.
move quickly.
Yeah. Or then you have to pass the next question, right?
Yeah.
I think that's me again. Why is it me again?
Okay.
No, I think somebody in between, yeah.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Okay, there are two secrets. More than a secret, I would say that more in terms of reflection. That's what I would say here, is deep empathy and then understanding personas. This is empathy. I would like to quote one of my experiences. Is quite some time back. One of my student teams in the Hasso Platter Institute of School of Design Thinking, quite some time back, I think six years back. This is on. This is for a problem solving for autistic children. So they have a problem of commuting between location A to B to C and D and so on. So how do you make that much more efficient? So these people, the student team had come out with a very beautiful solution that helps them to navigate amongst the traffic in Berlin streets and so on with a simple device which could give them a bus saying that you should take 10 meters ahead and then take a left and so on. Those kind of instructions it starts giving in, and that's how the navigation was made possible some 6 years back. What happened is the foundation which was running this institution, they immediately commissioned this project so that it could be productized, and it came into put in use very, very quickly in 3 months' time. So that was something very, very significant, which is coming from a deep empathy, because students themselves were able to go through the process as if they are autistic, and then were able to see what is the real pain these people are able to go through, and that's how this kind of innovation came into existence. So that's one thing which touched me very, very closely, and that's one of the inspirations for me to come back to India and then to start this kind of an activities within SAP in Bangalore as well as in Delhi. Yeah, I'm not going to the second because of the time.
Thank you.
The time master, yeah. Do you want to read out a question so we
Yeah,
can?
we'll take one question in the interest of time. So you can hand it over to her and let her pick.
Yeah. How do you convince a no-nonsense CEO to adopt the esoteric language of design thinkers? So this is Mr. Bhaskaran. Yeah. Who is this question for? Could be. Okay.
So, for example, Dr. Reddy's, you were lucky you had a CEO who chased you.
Yeah.
So suppose you didn't have that, or you had to convince a boss who's not really
The
into
the
it.
answer is you need luck. Okay, no, but
Then we just leave now, right? I mean, so, but the point remains this, right? As you said, if I go and talk to him about body, soul, and mind, he said we're not running a yoga institute. Get real. So
Talk to him about Steve Jobs.
all of us know Steve Jobs can't
Yeah.
emulate him. Right?
Yeah.
So how does that? How do you go about doing it? I mean, that's really the secret behind the starting point.
Sonia, can I?
Yeah,
take
sure,
it?
sure.
So there is a lot of utility in our smartphones that we make, right? So we in our design team said that okay, we are not going to work on utility. We are going to work on emotion. Okay. And so we started creating concepts for emotion. And then we went to my boss and the MD of Bangalore, Samsung, and we presented it to him. So, he went through the presentation, looked at me and said, Saumitri, is age maybe you think this is? And so I turned to him and said, Dipesh, it's not for you and me. It's for these young people. And what they exchange on WhatsApp, on what other mediums, is all these emotions. And that is what we need to bring alive. So he wasn't convinced on the first go, but as we started evangelizing, as we started presenting to everyone, that's what really caught up. And so you will see in our edge phones, when you kind of pluck from one side and this thing comes up where you can see the top 5 people whom you always want to get connected to, that came out of that idea. So the idea was that hardware-wise, we have this edge that gives you emotion. Software-wise, what can we build on that as well? Now, it initially didn't come, it faced a lot of resistance, but we had to talk to people, we had to show it out to people, we had to tell people that this is not for you, but for that kind of customer. And only by doing that, only by going through that journey did it come across.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
You already have a design team. I'm an engineer talking to another engineer. Help me.
Okay.
Can I'll go to the next slide
Sorry,
and
can you take
I'll
this
kill two
question
birds with
offline?
Yeah,
Because
we'll
the
take
tea
it
is gonna
offline.
get over.
I'll kill
Yeah.
2 birds with one stone. We'll go forward in the slide and we'll answer his question. Can you do that?
No, I'm sorry. The tea is gonna
Yeah.
get
I'm
over.
saying I'll
We'll
talk
need
about
tea.
the upcoming slide. I'm going to cover the slides. No? Okay, we're done? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, move on.
Take it offline.
But this is when we started talking, we as it is felt that this is a great discussion and it is quite endless. So we are happy to connect and even make a group of this room to continue this conversation, a WhatsApp group, and continue the conversation. Yes, go on. So your personal design revelation, very, very quickly if you can tell us, something that hit you like a bolt of lightning. You say, shit, you know, as a design guru, this is what came to you and this is very important.
Yeah, no, this is again one of the experiences. We were doing a long engagement with the Ministry of Defense in Singapore, and then they got great ideas, and then the bunch of teams there, and this is to enhance the experience for the new army enlistee, so that they had to go through 8 stations of medical screening, and they wanted to solve an efficiency problem. They're spending around 300 minutes, they want to do it in 150 minutes. So again, we changed the design challenge, to reframe the challenge to how to make it more easy and pleasurable for the young kids who are coming for enrollment of their, for the army enlisting. So what happened is that the bunch of teams came with a lot of good ideas, a lot of iPad-based games and applications so that they could keep the kids occupied during the screening process. And then we had a major issue. We said, no, you're not going to invest so much on IT. So therefore,
Okay, I think we'll move. Yeah, so that's your. Yeah. So this
That's
is
me, yeah.
Param. Yeah.
Yes. So for me, the big thing is the big secret here is to think big, but to start small.
Yeah.
And to
Can you move
surround
on?
yourself.
Keep move. Got
To
it.
surround yourself with T-shaped people. I think in India we tend to be very vertical. You know, the vertical of the
Yeah,
T is
yeah.
there, but not the horizontal. So
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck. I would like to invite Shalini to give away the mementos.
I feel like we should just run away from here and some time bomb is going to burst.
No, sorry.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. We're happy to continue this conversation over tea and any other time. Thank you.